Hey, Ronnie Dale, fourwheeling in westernaustralia.com, and welcome to another video. I'm here with a special guest. We're doing a collaboration video. Andrew.
Ronnie, fancy meeting you here.
How are you, mate?
Good to you.
Popped out of nowhere.
Yeah, don't ask, don't ask.
All right, so Andrew, 4x Overland. He also has a YouTube channel and we are doing a collaboration video. We just shot one about his vehicle. So at the end of this video, I'll prompt you to go to his channel. And you got 30 years plus experience in overlanding and filming.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of your stuff, top-notch quality, love it.
Thank you, thank you.
And I've decided with this collaboration video, because we were discussing how you're going to build your vehicle, I thought why not do one in general, a broad general discussion with advice and tips on how to build your overland vehicle. So to give you guys some ideas. And I thought, well, 30 years plus experience, 13, 14 vehicles?
Number 14.
Number 14? Well, I think we're going to get some good pointers here. So stay tuned. We have broken this video up into stages, and the first stage is planning, and we're going to go all the way through to what to look out for when you do things to your vehicle. Be mindful of a lot of things. So to kick it off, most of my four-wheel drive vehicles have been all utilities, and yours have been troop carriers and wagons.
Yes,
correct?
Mostly, but for two. This is the second ute.
Second ute.
Yeah. I think that there's a trap out there, and you and I are actually guilty of it, but the magazines perhaps even more so, is that all of the advertising kind of will convince somebody who's starting out, I need this, I need that, I need that, I need that.
Yes.
And half of it you don't need. Most of it is nice to have.
Totally agree.
And I think it's just a great idea is go and do a trip.
And then you work out what you need.
Then you'll know what you need. You won't be sold stuff that you don't need. You'll know, and you'll actually go seek it out.
Yeah.
Because you'll know, I need that. I wish I had that. I wish I had an awning. I wish I had the fridge. I bought a 60-litre fridge, and there are only two of us. It's taking up the whole back of the car, and I only need 40 litres. So why did I buy a 60? Because I was sold one. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah, and I mean that goes on with all of the mods
Everything.
and accessories and stuff.
Yeah.
But also, if you go on these trips, obviously you'll be going with other people too, so you're going to get some ideas of what they use too.
Yes.
So that's also another excellent idea. But let's go into more the wagon versus the utility. If you have a wagon, you've got to do a lot less to the vehicle to have it ready with all your cargo and storage.
Yeah, what have you got? You've got a payload issue immediately because you're going to want to take water,
yes,
camping gear and food, roof rack versus trailer, rooftop tent versus ground tent. All these questions come up,
yes,
but these are not so much vehicle related. They do impact on the vehicle, mainly with payload and space. But with a ute, you do have that much more space and that much more freedom to do things with.
But it's out in the open too.
You've got to do something to prepare
So,
it.
yeah,
it's
exactly.
very true.
So I think with a wagon, you've got to carefully decide what you're going to squeeze in. With a utility, you also got to be careful there too, but with the weight.
I'm glad you brought up weight because I think weight is the number one enemy. I'll give you an example. I did a trip through Angola and the chap had a 105. I was also driving a 105. He was complaining about overheating and a number of other things, and his vehicle was so heavy. When we once, after the trip actually, weighed that vehicle, it was 40 kilograms over GVM, empty.
Empty?
Over, 40 over.
Yes.
So he was way over. Mine was, I was more comfortable, I had a more efficient tent, I had everything he had, but I didn't have all of this unnecessary stuff bolted everywhere, I suppose because it looked good. I don't know really why he did it, but it didn't help him. His vehicle was overheating. That was because of these enormous spot lamps. He complained of his feet were very hot. And one evening he said, my feet are roasting, and that is not a problem you have with a 105. And I said to him, let's try an experiment. Let's take your headlamps off. And we took them off, problem gone.
Wow. Yeah.
Amazing.
Definitely research your vehicle as well, because like you mentioned, this car was overweight, dry. A 200 series is a good example here. and you put bull bar, you put rear bar with extra tyre, you put roof rack, all that on, you are already over your GVM.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a good vehicle to bolt a lot of stuff to if you want to remain legal.
Okay.
In a safe manner.
Right.
And another thing as well, like you mentioned, with the lights on the front of a vehicle, overheating issues, go to a forum and research the vehicle before you buy it if you plan to buy one. If you already got one, research what you need to avoid.
You have to do research, because if you just believe the person in the shop,
Exactly.
he's got two things. He's going to advise you and he wants to sell you stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a conflict there. Some
There
shops
is.
are worse than others, but there's always a bit of a conflict. So
building in the correct order. So I'll just kick off an example. If you go to do your suspension, I firmly believe you need to bolt all the bits of heavy stuff on first, like your bar work, your canopy if it's a utility, your roof rack, all that stuff. All the heavy stuff needs to go on your vehicle first, and then you tinker with the suspension.
would you recommend going to a weighbridge and actually finding out the actual weight as opposed to the guessed weight?
Yeah, definitely.
Because often the guessed weight is a lot less than the actual weight.
Yeah, you want it to be lighter.
Mentally,
so-
you're going to make it lighter.
Yes.
But yeah,
And you also got to factor in, when you do go to the weighbridge, put all the fuel in, fill it up, load it up with your camping gear, then take it there.
yeah. So that's very important.
And
Yeah.
if you're wondering where to go, just go to your local tip. They usually got a weighbridge.
That's the most obvious. The suspension is the most obvious one, because the
Definitely.
challenge is with suspension is it makes the vehicle look good. So it's tempting to do it first because I want to make an impression immediately.
Yes.
But if you don't know what that weight's going to be, it's very easy that you'll put too much. It's as easy to put too heavier springs as it is to put too lighter springs.
Yeah, that's true. You can have the problem both ways.
Yeah. And too heavier springs, your vehicle is just horrible to drive unless it's fully loaded, and then it's acceptable.
When you do your tyres, you should really think about your suspension lift at the same time, and vice versa, because then you can match the clearance for the tyre you're going to put on.
Putting in a packing system in the back, those drawers and things are very, very nice.
Yep.
But actually what you should do is decide how big what is the biggest object that's going to go back in the back of your wagon. Probably a fridge. Where's it going to go? And it's a big square item. Sometimes it's on a slider. How easy is it to get to? Can you open it? And it takes up such an enormous amount of space. You might very well find that in your vehicle, because you've chosen a tall fridge, it doesn't go on top of the drawers because now it's too high to open.
And you can't open
and
the
you
lid.
can't open the lid. So maybe you put the drawers one on top of each other next to the fridge, and the fridge is lowered down.
Yeah.
It's all of these things.
Yep.
So I think it's before you put a drawer system in your car, get the fridge.
Get the fridge.
And then you can move it around and say, okay, this is going to work best for me. As opposed to putting the drawer system, oh, I want this fridge. No, it's too tall. It doesn't really work.
That's a great point. That is a great point. This prompted me to think about something else. Grab all your gear that you think you're going to bring camping. All your gear that's going to go in the vehicle, be bolted in the vehicle that's not in there yet. Lay it out on the ground around your vehicle. Work out where it's going to go. And the thing is, you don't want to go to camp and your table is on the bottom and you've got everything else on top. That is the worst thing.
It's okay to do that for the first few camps.
Yes.
Because then you will know, then you'll have your set priorities will appear. What's
Right.
important to you, because it might not be the same as everybody else.
Storage and convenience. We kind of slightly touched on the topic already in the planning the build. It's a bit hard not to. We're going to get into more detail on that now. So let's start with canopies first for utilities.
Yes.
So I've had an aluminium canopy, and I've also had a fiberglass canopy on a tub liner. So on the tub liner, the fiberglass canopy let in so much dust. Have you had an issue similar to that? Yes? I think
Yes.
everyone has.
Yes. They are horrible. You know, for not much more, you can get a really nice aluminium canopy that fits very, very well. It's solid, it's strong enough to put a load on top for a little bit more money. And they're dust resistant, none of them are dust proof. They, what do you call those? Not the tray back, you call them, eh?
The tub, the well body.
The well body
Yeah.
tub. That expression I'm not that familiar with. But the tailgate lets in a lot of dust.
Yeah, to seal.
And the best ones I've seen by far, that tailgate is removed completely, and as part of the door for the rear canopy, the door goes right down to the bottom.
Okay, so do you open like that and that, or the whole thing?
The whole thing opens as a door.
As one?
It's one door, but it goes all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top, and the canopy's frame goes all the way to the bottom and all the way across. Not many manufacturers make them.
No.
You want a dust-proof canopy, that's the way to go. I've done a lot of dust, and I get a lot of sponsorship vehicles. So a manufacturer will say, here's a vehicle, you know, I'll do a trip, and they'll contribute to the trip and the film shoot, and I'll have to use their kit.
Okay.
And that's where I've got my experience from with Tupperware canopies. I hate them. Seriously hate them. Canvas canopies look cool, but the dust, you can't keep it out.
No.
Yeah, but the aluminium canopies to me are by far the best option.
Yeah.
Even the ones that don't drop down, they are.
Yep. That's what I had previously before I went to the
Okay.
frame system.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go for sealed aluminium boxes again, because that's the only thing that I've found that keeps the dust out. So if you have a station wagon, like a wagon, you're going to need a roof rack. Would you not agree? If
Yes.
you're going
Yes.
on a long trip,
Yes.
you will need a roof rack. And possibly even a rear wheel carrier. That's
So 2 spare wheels is a must. At what point in Australia must
what
I
point?
have 2 spare wheels?
if you're traveling in remote areas, that warrants 2 spares, in my opinion.
I was asked a question. I'm busy building this vehicle now and talking about a solution, a 2 spare wheels solution, and somebody said, but you've only had 1 puncture in 9 years with your BF Goodriches. What on earth are you worrying about? And I
saw
said,
that
well,
comment.
you know, you're making a good point, but I still want 2 spares.
Yeah.
It's peace of mind. It's just something. You know, the day you get a damaged tire and a slashed sidewall is
It's
the
when you
day
have
that you're going to
one spare.
get. You're going to do it with, and you're going to have 1 spare.
Yeah,
It's just
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law. So carry 2.
That's a good point. But he had a good point too.
No, he did. Absolutely.
With the storage and convenience, everything needs to have its home, which we kind of touched on already, but each item needs to serve more than one purpose if possible. So you need to keep in mind of your kit. I'll give you an example. I carry an axe with me when I go camping. That axe serves to chop wood, to chop kindling, light duties around camp, to knock out broken guards, and to hammer in my tent pegs. I don't need to bring a mallet or a hammer.
That's good.
So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
I'm actually trying to think. That's quite good. I think it's a mental approach.
Mental approach.
It's a mental approach. Oh, I'll take this just because of this. I have the same kind of chopper, but I actually don't use an axe. It's a very heavy blade, and I can use it for slashing, but I can't use it for knocking in a tent peg.
Yes.
And it's perfect for kindling because I can then hit it with something else,
Like
like a
another
log.
block of wood,
Like
yeah.
a log. So if I'm splitting log, I hit it with a block of wood because it's this thick. But it's got a
Okay.
beautiful edge on it, and it's not an axe. So it can't cut a tree down, but it's brilliant for firewood, but not the very heavy bits.
Yes.
And I only take that. I don't take a big axe.
Yeah.
I used to, and I just found I used it so infrequently, I just eventually got to leave it behind, and I don't miss it at all.
That's a good point too. I used to carry a big axe too, but then I went down to a little tomahawk size, but now I'm sort of in between.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
a lot of money gets spent on working out the gear, so think about it.
Yeah. And torches, everybody will have a head torch. What other torches do you actually need? You need maybe one bright long distance torch
Yes.
for security or something, and
And guiding people in the dark.
yeah, you don't really need too many others apart from that.
That's pretty much it. The other lights can be vehicle mounted,
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't know if this is the right place to mention this, but I also think it's important to have people in the crew, the people that you're traveling with, know where certain things are on your vehicle. For example, they should know where your pump is, where your first aid kit is. So if your first aid kit is actually put in a drawer somewhere, put a sticker somewhere on the car. And normally I have my first aid kit actually in a very visible, so when you look through the window, there's
You can
this
see it.
bag with this big cross, and it can't be mistaken. So there's an accident or something, and instead of people, where's your first aid kit? People just
Yeah.
know. In a convoy, you've got some people
Yes.
and they're wandering around, they just know so-and-so's first aid kit is there because we see it every day.
Yeah, it's right
You know.
there. And fire extinguishers.
Same thing, exactly the same thing. They've got to be right there, visible, so you can see them. So you don't have any time to lose.
Mainly, I want to touch on electrical stuff here and quality of workmanship, not quality of the items. So there's something you really got to be careful with, and you could go to some of the biggest brands around, but if you don't specify that, hey, I would like this wiring to be soldered and heat shrinked, this is how I want my wiring, they won't do it. They're there to make money, and it takes a long time to do proper wiring. It takes a very long time. So unless you're willing to tell them what you want and pay them the extra amount it's going to cost, because let's face it, they do deserve to be paid a bit more to do it proper.
I actually think it's one of the biggest shortcomings in 4x4 accessory stores. It's a challenge for them, because to do proper wiring takes expertise and it takes time. Time is money. So now they want to install your spot lamps and they want to charge so many $100, and you're saying, what, $100? Well, to do it properly, it takes time to do a proper crimp.
Exactly.
And a proper, it takes time. Apart from, but the time is more expensive than the cables and the crimps and the lugs. I think it's a major problem, because I think the quality varies enormously. I've seen the
immensely
shocking, unbelievably gobsmacked bad workshop
on your own
electricals
vehicle?
On my own vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, on my 78, I did a lot of it myself, and I had to rewire the entire back bumper. It was appalling. I believe in Australia you have a similar challenge.
Yes, very similar challenge. I had it with a previous vehicle. It was nasty, nasty. I just completed a water crossing where the whole car was submerged in water. Not a drop got inside. But I was only to find out that later on I had a light that wasn't quite working. So I grabbed the wire to expose it to have a look. Pops out. What was that joined on with? Electrical tape. Like this with electrical tape. But more recently, this vehicle here, I'm not going to mention where it was, and I mean they got really good stuff, and that's why I went there. But my wiring for my dual battery system was woeful, and I was meant to bring the bag with me to show you, but I'll put it on the screen because I've got it at home still. The wire is green and black, just from poor connections, corrosion, everything. It was just exposed to all the elements, and it's at the front of the vehicle where my battery charger is. Yeah. So yeah, be very careful. You won't notice it straight away, over time. And what about when you go to all different places as well? Everyone has a go at your vehicle.
But that's a problem, because I mean, none of us really, well, how many of us actually just say, okay, build a vehicle one place and do everything? Because we every year we'll add a little bit, change this and change that. It's good to, if you find a place that's good, stick with it.
Don't go for the cheapest price when it comes to electrical wiring.
No,
do not do that, because that's when you get problems.
Yeah.
And another thing, if you are going to put a dual battery system in, why not just ask them and spend the extra couple of $100 or $100 to get the extra wiring done straight away to the back of your vehicle, so you have it there for next time you're going to do something. Now, engines as well, that is another issue, especially with chip tuning. I might sound a little bit biased because I do have a uni chip in my vehicle, but I do know that a Steinbauer is also quite reasonable, high-tech chip for your vehicle. But there's a lot of other ones out there that are just plug and play, and you get a lot of accessory stores that just sell them. They just plug and play. They don't tune it on a dyno. They can't really tell you what the gains are. They just go by a diagram in a book. Each vehicle is different. Each vehicle reacts different that I've seen in workshops. So my advice here also would be to find a good mechanic via word of mouth, if you can, or someone who's done a lot of work on your specific vehicle perhaps, and don't tune it to get the high number. Tune it for reliability.
Do you think that these plug and play are actually hazardous because they could damage your engine?
Yes, in my opinion, I believe so. And I have heard and I've seen a few vehicles have catastrophic failure because of the chip. They put too much fuel in, the rail pressure's too high. So with these sensitive engines, a lot can go wrong.
Well, the engine management system, the standard stock engine management system, the whole point of it is to keep the vehicle within emission regulations,
Yes.
long life and reliability,
So
longevity, and fuel efficiency. But it isn't as a fuel efficient as one might get if you tweaked it a little bit more.
Yes.
In fact, the inventor of the unit ship, he talks about the unit ship as being a T-shirt. So if you buy a T-shirt off the internet, you buy medium or large. Now the medium might be a little bit tight,
yes.
but it's okay, and the large may be just too large. But you've got to choose one, and that's what a plug and play is. It could be too much power, too much fuel, overfueling eventually will damage the engine, but yes, it'll feel very nice at first because it'll give you lots of power. But meanwhile, the unit ship, what he was basically saying is, it's not a medium, it's not a large, it is tailored. It's a T-shirt perfectly tailored to your engine.
That's a good way of putting it.
Okay,
actually.
so now you know you will not overfuel, you will be safe. It'll give you great extra performance and great extra economy, and and he talks about performance. He does not say, he's very specific. He says power isn't performance. That's not performance. More power is not performance. Performance is acceleration, efficiency, fuel efficiency, towing capabilities. That's what I like about that particular product.
And it's hard not to be biased about it because
It's very good.
the main point is, if you do go for any chip whatsoever, just make sure it's someone who has a dyno and who knows how to tune.
And you can tune your vehicle with a chip.
Exactly.
Then you're probably safe.
Yeah. Well, you're in better hands.
You're in
than,
much better hands than just
yeah,
plugging
you're not
something in.
blindfolded.
Yeah.
Things that you can do yourself that actually save a ton of money. And I think we're both going to agree that electrical is going to be one of them.
I've just done a video on that very thing.
Okay. Well,
That very thing.
there you go.
And I showed some appalling work from a workshop. And then I spoke about soldering and crimping and wire sizes and that kind of thing. And you can do, it's very simple, but there are a few rules. Electrical work, save a bomb and do a better job and have fun designing it as well.
Yeah, that's it. And then if something goes wrong, you know
You know exactly where things are.
where things are. Exactly. But if things go wrong, you can blame yourself too. But yeah, you got to know what you're doing though. So I wouldn't recommend doing it if you're not confident, because I know a certain someone who's set his stereo on fire and his wife has said, you're not touching electricals ever again.
Okay, yeah, okay.
This is probably more for people who have had a vehicle and it's outside the warranty. If you know how to do mechanics, service your own vehicle. That'll save you a ton of money too. And pull things apart, put them together. You learn how to do it. And you got to do it a couple of times before you really learn how to do each specific thing. Like I'll pull my wheel bearings apart, but when they collapsed out in the middle of nowhere, I had a mechanical fitter with me by chance. So I said, mate, you're doing the fitting because you're more experienced than I am.
Yeah.
So,
I was travelling in a convoy in the 105 and we arrived at a border post and went through, and he was behind me and I could smell his brakes. And I said to him, you've got some serious mechanical problem here. I can smell there's something cooking. His wheel bearing had cooked. It hadn't seized, but it had cooked. I did it for him because there was nobody around who had done a wheel bearing before.
okay.
And I was familiar, and it took us 2 days because no spare parts. But there were some mines nearby that were running Land Cruisers, and we managed to find a bearing.
Excellent.
So, but he was right next to me, and I said, next time, carry bearings, and that's, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea to get your hands dirty, because when things do go wrong, it doesn't intimidate you.
Custom work. And custom work can be any custom work. If you can fabricate stuff and you can weld, well, good on you. I wish I could. I really wish I could. But I can build shelves, I can build drawers. Anyone can really do it if you put your mind to it. And that is one place where you can save a lot of money and you can get exactly what you want. Because if you buy what's in the shop, like you mentioned before, you have a refrigerator, you want it here, you want 2 drawers there. Well, you might be able to get that kit, but it might not fit properly. It might not fit your fridge.
Yeah.
So if you can do it yourself. And I know lots of people that have done their own drawers. Some look kind of not too great, but they are fantastically practical And yes, they've had a few hiccups on the way.
But that's with the homemade stuff, they might not look quite as good. But I've seen some wonderful stuff done in somebody's own garage, and it's really, really nice.
Do you know what my dad uses in the back of his Jeep?
Yeah?
A filing cabinet.
A metal filing cabinet.
A metal filing cabinet. He's carpeted it.
Oh, right, okay. I'm not sure if I'd go quite that far, but...
it works really well.
Oh, really?
But you know, you can use anything, especially, and if you do it, use marine ply. That's what I suggest.
Oh, yes.
In the back. You get a leaky fridge or something, just marine ply, you'll be fine.
Also, what about airbags and bull bars? Because bull bars, I don't know if it's the same in every country, but can you just buy a bull bar from a backstreet mechanic who's making bull bars?
Yes, you can, but you can't put them on if it's got airbag. If you've got an airbag in the vehicle, that bull bar needs to be approved, ADR approved, in a crash test, so that bar is compatible with a bull bar.
Yes.
So on your GQ Patrol, you can fabricate anything you want as long as there's no protruding sharp bits and pieces on it, and you'll pass it.
Okay.
Even your steering wheel, you can't just change your steering wheel to anything because most of them have airbags now. So you're stuck with a steering wheel. You can't get those cool racing little steering wheels.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So it's not in other countries it is an issue, and I've seen some very nice looking backyard bull bars. They look really good, but they are not tested for airbag compatibility, and my guess is that most of them would not work.
Yes, and then the trouble you end up with is if you're in an accident and occupants die in your vehicle, you may...
And you've got that bull bar.
You're going down.
You are going to be liable.
Yep. Oh, and DIY, don't touch your brakes. Never touch your brakes. It's not a good idea. If something happens and they find that it's faulted the brakes, who serviced the brakes last? I did. It's not good.
I wish I'd learnt that 20 years ago. More.
Yeah?
Yeah. Brakes.
With the brakes?
Failed.
Yeah.
Put cheap pads in.
Oh. Yeah.
They failed. The brakes failed. Slammed into a brick wall.
Ouch.
Learnt the hard way. Never did that again.
Yeah, I'll stay away from brakes unless they brake on the track.
Yeah.
Vital items and overlooked items or accessories that people overlook when they build their vehicle and use their vehicle.
Recovery points on the vehicle. So now they buy a high lift jack, and there's no any place to jack it because unless you put a replacement rear bar, there's generally no place on the back to jack the vehicle up. Same with the bull bar, but bull bar is one of those early things that people tend to buy, so mostly the bull bar's on the vehicle. But recovery points, a place to, a proper recovery point, not a lashdown point, a proper recovery point.
So what you're referring to is those tie-down points that are used to ship the vehicles over. You shouldn't use those. So
if you do, tie them both, use a strap, tie them both. They're not actually designed for it.
No.
You know, and then make sure you use a safety strap to if they do break.
And be gentle.
And be just know they're not designed for it, and not the bumper. Really, not the bumper.
Yeah, and not the tow ball either.
And not the even worse, tow ball. Even worse.
Let's just mention recovery gear in general as well. People often forget about that too. And people also often forget about if they need to self-recover. And I'm not talking about a winch because winches are expensive. Not everyone can afford a winch and not everyone needs a winch. But if you just have some recovery boards, i.e. your Max Tracks or any other type of boards, I honestly think that they are a worthwhile piece of equipment because if you get stuck yourself, those boards can get you out.
I would buy a set of Max Tracks or similar long before I bought a winch.
Yes.
Much more useful.
Yep.
If you think about it, far more useful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And what people also forget, I find, is a shovel.
Oh,
Shovel. That's the number one recovery tool. You can use your Max Tracks as a shovel, but no, don't do it. Get a shovel.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Then you need a Max. Then Max Tracks would probably be something like.
Yeah.
They're certainly good, Max Tracks, because they're so versatile. You can use them as a shovel, but shovel, Max Tracks, and then some straps, because sometimes you'll have somebody coming along to help pull you out and they might not have a strap.
Exactly.
But then you need the proper bow shackles.
Yep.
And you need to know a little bit about it.
Yeah, so a full kit, and then
Yeah.
watch a YouTube video on how to use it.
Yes, yes.
Fire extinguisher, which I already mentioned, and you mentioned the first aid kit before. Must
Yeah.
have in the vehicle. Must have.
And people must know where it is, so it's easily seen. Fire extinguisher, same things, easily seen.
All right, guys. I think you have a lot of ideas here. We've covered a lot of topics here with just building your vehicle. But we also shot something just before this video. And Andrew, do you want to elaborate on your vehicle build?
I moved to Western Australia 2 months ago, and I've been overlanding many countries, 15 countries around the world, and most of my experience is Africa. And so I wanted to get an Australian experienced overlander's perspective on building my own truck to make sure I don't miss out anything or do anything stupid. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn. Not every country is the same. This is the case here. And so my vehicle will be built. Now I'm doing a sequence of videos building my vehicle and putting my experience in and other people's experience, building the vehicle, and then culminating in canning stock, which I'm shooting in July. And awesome. that's going to be my first major intense exposure to the Australian outback.
Yeah. And so you picked probably the most intense one.
I
most
hope
remote
so.
one.
I hope. Yes, I wanted remote. I wanted intense. I wanted that whole Australian bush feel.
Yep.
We'll be taking bacon and on the open fire in the morning. You know what I mean.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking.
definitely.
That's the flavour of the Australian bush, and that's what I want to portray in my videos that I'm making of canning stock, and the history and the da-da-da-da.
So if you want to see the talk we did about what Andrew needs to prepare his vehicle for these conditions here in Australia, hop to this video right here and you'll see our discussion with Andrew's vehicle. And also check out his channel while you're there and hit the subscribe button.
Yeah.
Check it out. Thanks for watching. You can also subscribe to me if you haven't already up here. And I'll see you in the next video.
Cheers.